guys. My name is Katie. I'm a Google Ads expert and coach. And so today I just want to chat a little bit about Google Ads, and eventually we'll get a little bit of an understanding of where you guys currently are at. So a little bit about me. I'm the founder of Catie Marketing, which is my business. For my business, I manage Google Ads, but I also coach Google Ads as well. So the coaching part of my business is ramping up. I just started that in October, but I'm focusing on training women entrepreneurs how to manage their own Google Ads, because I know that sometimes having an account manager might not be the best option for everyone. And especially when COVID hit, that was something that I really understood, that not a lot of people could afford to pay the high prices of an account manager. So I just started training some of my clients. And then I realized, oh, wow, I could actually do a lot more. I could help a lot more people with Google Ads instead of just taking them on as personal clients. You know, we all hit our threshold. I realized my threshold was about 10 clients, and of course, I want to help everyone. So that's why I started diving into teaching Google Ads, coaching Google Ads, and helping anyone on their journey with that. So just a little bit about me. In my free time, I do love to hike and camp and volunteer at my local animal shelter. Don't have any animals with me today, but typically I do like to foster animals, some dogs and cats. So a little bit about my journey. To give you some background, I started my business about 5 years ago. And then I also went ahead and was working for my mom at the same time. So I was telling everyone earlier today, when I graduated college, I studied communications, nothing to do with marketing. But working for my mom in a small business, I found that, you know, I could take on anything that I wanted. So I did customer service, I did sales, I did marketing, all of the stuff. And that's when I really found that I love working in marketing. And of course, my mom had an agency that was kind of managing everything for us. So being a small business, she hired outsourced someone, and they were managing our Google ads and Facebook ads. And I came in, I was like, okay, I'll take this over. I'll take over the reporting. And of course, being a communications major, I had no idea what I was doing at the beginning. And so I took it upon myself to kind of learn and dive a little bit deeper into the reports, just to figure out, you know, what they were saying and what was actually happening. They were showing these great results, but it wasn't necessarily what we were seeing on the back end of in our business. So I had a little skepticism with that. So when I started to learn all about Google Ads and Facebook and asking them questions, I kind of realized it wasn't the exact service that they were providing. And of course, being that it was for my mom's business, I was like, okay, we need to go ahead and let them go. I can take on this. And so that's how I started my journey, and just started learning everything that I could about pay-per-click advertising. So when I could be a part of these important conversations with the agency, and then, like I said, eventually we let them go, and I just took it on myself. So the moral of that story is that just because I didn't know it at the beginning, and this is what I see with my students and clients all the time, doesn't mean that you can't learn it. Google Ads might seem confusing and scary and overwhelming at first, because trust me, I was there. I was like, what is this? It's a brand new marketing platform that you would have to learn. So what you really need to remember is that you will learn it over time, and then you just need someone to help you get you there. So this is where my need meets your passions, or my passion meets your needs, sorry. So I help entrepreneurs feel confident with their marketing strategy and to stop feeling so overwhelmed by Google Ads. So my goal for you is not to only escalate your business profits through Google Ads if you're currently running them or interested about running them, but also to change your whole digital marketing mindset and to realize that Google Ads isn't as scary as it seems. And it's definitely something that you can either take on yourself, or at least be part of those important conversations with your account manager or an agency if you're outsourcing this information. So in this webinar, we'll go ahead and we'll learn about the importance of Google Ads marketing. You know, if you haven't done it yet, why you should start, if you're ready, how Google Ads can help your business thrive, and then of course, how to begin your keyword research. Keywords are the #1 area where I see a lot of issues. So I really want to start and make sure that we talk about keywords, because that's where a lot of wasted ad spend can happen, unfortunately, because that's when you start to get into a little bit more of the confusing territory. with, if you're familiar with Google Ads, if you have match types like phrase match and broad match and exact match, and there's all these different things that might seem confusing. So we'll go over the basics today so you have more of an understanding in that certain area. So before we dive in, I want to get a rough idea of how confident you feel with Google Ads currently. Number 1 is going to be I'm a total beginner, and then number 10 is just I'm here to make sure you know what you're doing, Katie. Okay, definitely see lots of 1s and 2s. Okay, I see 6s and 7s. That's great to see. Awesome. So we got a huge range today. So this is great. So I'm assuming people who are messaged with the 6 or 7, you most likely do have a Google Ads account running. So this will be great for you as well. So you can go back and audit your account and make sure that you can see what's going on. Okay. We'll go ahead and exit out that. So like I said, Google Ads can be a little bit of an overwhelming journey at the beginning, but what you really do need to know, and this is why it's important that you are on Google Ads if your business is ready for it, it's because it's where your audience is actively searching using high intent keywords. So what does that sentence mean? So let me break that down. So first, your target audience is on Google Ads. So Google allows you to take your customer persona and target them directly with your campaigns. So you can target your audience by demographics, by life events, services, products that they recently shopped for. And even what I like with Google Ads is you can target by income level. You can't do that on Facebook and Instagram as well as I'm aware. So that's what's really nice with Google Ads is you have that next level of income. So, you know, if you have a luxury brand, you can only target the top 10% of income. So that's a little snippet of information that not a lot of people know. And you can really get narrowing down your target audience. So next, your clients are actively searching. So your clients are in the market for your service or product. So a great example is I'm targeted like crazy for dog mom apparel on Facebook and Instagram. Why? Because I'm constantly searching for dog related products when I am a foster mom. However, I'm currently not. You know, I only have them every few months. I actually haven't had one in over 8 months, but I'm still getting Facebook and Instagram ads with dog mom apparel. Just because Google, in marketing, the whole wide web has that information on me. So the difference is that Facebook and Instagram is display advertising. So that's just going to send out products and services to people who might be interested in your product if you're in that audience. However, with Google, it's going to be pull advertising. So what that means is that people are actively searching for your keywords into Google, meaning that they are ready to buy. So when I'm ready to buy for my foster dogs, I go to Google, search, and buy some stuff. However, in that moment that I don't currently have one, I'm still getting shown Facebook and Instagram ads because I'm in that certain audience. So that's what the big difference between Google and Facebook is Google is going to be that pull marketing that pulls them in when they are ready and actively searching, versus Facebook is push marketing, display advertising, when you're pushing your ads out to your ideal audience. So going with that, now using high intent keywords, there's a million different types of keywords that we can use. So we want to make sure that we're using high intent keywords that have an action behind the search. So whether it's hair salon near me or hire a bookkeeper, we want to use keywords that we know that people are using, that they want to perform some sort of action. So that's what high intent means, is there is an action behind the keyword itself. And that's what I love about Google, is that you can just target those keywords and not waste your money on the keywords that people are just maybe browsing and searching. So the next slide is going to look like a lot, but what I want to have you do is just take a screenshot. So this is just a couple of the marketing lingo. And so if at any point in time I talk about any of these and you're like, what did she say a conversion rate was? You can just pull up your screen real quickly and look at it. So these are basically the 6 keywords, terms that I want to go over because they're going to show up in the presentation today. And it's important that you understand what they are so you know what I'm saying. So for search engine marketing, That is Google Ads. That is Bing Ads. That's anything, like I said, where people go to a certain platform, type something in because they're looking for a product or service. Search terms are going to be the actual keyword or string of words that a search engine user types into the search box. KPIs are the key performance indicators, and these are going to be the indicators of progress towards an intended result. And KPIs are typically an analytics basis for decision making. So a few of the main 3 KPIs that I'll be talking about today is cost per click, which is CPC, click-through rate, which is CTR, and conversion rate, which is CVR. So CPC is going to be just the cost that you pay for each click. So every time someone clicks on your ad, that's all you're going to pay for. What's really nice about search engine marketing is that if no one clicks on your ad, you don't pay for it. So that's what the great thing with this is that you're only paying for when your ad shows up in front of someone and someone clicks on it. Click-through rate is now the actual ratio of how often someone sees your ad and then clicks on it. An average one for search is about 2%. And so that's just to give you some basis. You know, if you are running campaigns, make sure to look at your click-through rate and see if it's around 2%. If it's under 1% for search campaigns, we should chat because that's definitely not something that where you want to be. So 2% is going to be the average. Lastly is conversion rate. So these are the numbers that are the number of conversions, and you divide it by the number of total ad interactions. So how many people clicked on your ad and then how many people actually converted. A conversion can be anything you tell Google that it is. It could be a form fill, it could be a newsletter sign up, it could be an actual purchase. Sometimes it could even be a click on a certain button on your page. If you want to see how many people, you know, scroll down halfway to the page and click on a certain button to find out more information. So conversion rate does not have to mean sales. It can mean a whole bunch of things. I think we saw, did we have a message in the chat? I want to stop here to see if we have any questions.
In the chat, what I put in there is that we'll make this deck available too.
Okay.
If someone wants to come back and look at this. This also great opportunity. If anyone has any questions, this is a great time to do so. All good. That's
okay, great. We will go on. So now, why you should be on Google. So your audience, like I said, is on Google. Your target audience is on Google with over 3.9 billion searches a day, which is over 3.8 million searches per minute on average. That's a lot of searches. So your audience is actively using these high intent keywords that you can target. The next one is that Google has exceptional targeting capabilities. As I mentioned before, there's a bunch of different audiences that you can choose from. So there's detailed demographics, like I said, income level is one of them. Of course, you can always do age, you can do gender, but then there's also some other demographics and audiences like in-market audiences and affinity audiences, which just give you a general idea. Like I said, on Facebook and Instagram, I get targeted for dog mom apparel because Facebook knows I'm in market for dog mom products. And so you can combine keywords with these exceptional targeting capabilities to get access to all of these new qualified leads. So specifically with these new leads too, what's great is that Google Ads is relatively inexpensive. It differs between Facebook and Google depending on what type of conversion you need, whether it's a form fill, a click, or just someone to watch a video. But across the search industry, for Google Ads, the average cost per click is $2.69, and for display, it's 63 cents. So it's definitely really affordable. However, you want to be careful because there are some cost per clicks that can jump up to $60, but that's more so for service-based industries. I've seen it with lawyers. They can have very high cost per clicks because there is a lot of competition. And so the more competition that you have and the more higher priced that your product or your service can be, you might have higher cost per clicks. You know, Google inherently knows lawyers make a lot of money or can make a lot of money, so they do charge $60 to $80 for clicks. And so that's something to be aware of. And we'll go into research in a minute, but to make sure you do research your average cost per click and that it's aligned with your budget. So next, I want to ask a few questions. You're probably asking yourself, well, this is great information about Google Ads, but is it right for my business? So what I want to have you do is just take note and make a little check mark or mental mark of any of these that resonate with you. So for number one, can you commit to spending $500 a month? $500 is sort of the limit that I've noticed, where you want to be able to put in enough money to generate data back. Number two is, do you sell a product or service that is well known to the market? Google Ads is not necessarily somewhere where you want to put something that is brand new to the market. Because it's search advertising, you want to make sure that people are actually searching for your product or service, and it's not so new to the market where no one's actually going to be searching for it. Next, number three is going to be, is your conversion rate above 2%? So for this conversion rate, I am looking for if it's e-commerce for purchase or if it's for signing up for a lead generation. Maybe you offer a service and your conversion is a form fill. 2% is a good benchmark to be able to make sure that you know when people come to your site that they will continue to convert and you're not going to be bringing in irrelevant traffic or traffic that's not going to convert. Next is, can you commit to at least 2 months of advertising? I say at least 2 months because as all marketing is, it's all going to be learning how to optimize your campaigns. And so typically the first month, you're going to be putting in a lot of keywords. You're going to do some testing with your ad copy. And you want to make sure that that first month that you have, one, is enough data, and two, that you learn from that data. So then you want to take all of that learning from month one and put it into month two and then continue to optimize. So that's what I always say for all of my clients and students who want to start out on Google. Make sure you can at least commit to 2 months because you might not see your projected or your target return on ad spend from month one, because that's where you're going to be learning about your clients and services. So next is going to be your average order value. If you're e-commerce, for Google Ads, it is best to stay above $50. I have worked with some clients that are below $50. However, with Google Ads, e-commerce is a lot of upper funnel searches. So what that means, it's a lot of brand awareness. People are generally just looking for some things and not necessarily ready to buy. So you want to make sure your average order value is above $50 to give you some wiggle room to make sure that you get your return on ad spend. And lastly, do you sell products or services that is needed by your market? So this still goes back to with number two. You want to make sure that, again, your product or service isn't fairly unknown and that people are actually searching for it. So now go through the list one more time, just mental notes, and take a little mark of every single one that you resonate with or that actually applies to your business. And you can actually put your number in the chat. So 1 through 6, whether you got 2, whether you got 3, 5, whatever it was, just go ahead and put it in the chat. And I would love to see what everyone's numbers are.
While everyone's putting their notes in there, I'll just say, Catie, wow, I love how these specific things, I find it to be so helpful, like just to have sort of a measuring stick and very.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I've been doing this for so long. Typically, someone just asks me like, can I be on Google Ads? I have this amount of money, and well, give me some information and I can kind of tell you right away. But this is just a nice little graph to look at, not graph, but numbers to look at and be like, okay, yes, 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 no, no, no. And I'll let you know in a second when everyone puts their number in. But there is a certain number where if you check a few of them, you are actually good for Google Ads. And maybe if you only check one, then maybe Google Ads is not right for your business at this time.
Mm-hmm. But then also, again, helpful to be like, ooh, okay, then I know where I'm falling short in as well, and things that you could maybe work towards or use.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Yeah, I see Melanie has a 5. That's fantastic. You're ready for Google Ads if you're not already running it. Same with Lauren. Naomi has a 2. And so a 2 is, if it was a 1, definitely I would say you need some more work. If it's a 2, that's definitely something that we would chat about a little bit more and just kind of see like, okay, well, like you were saying, what can we work on? Can we work on the conversion rate first? And then when we hit 2%, we can go from there. So great seeing everyone's numbers. And let's go ahead and continue. And these are going to be some more Google Ads stats that might blow your mind a little bit. They're kind of wild to me, just being a Google Ads expert as well. Right now, search terms are actually more complex than ever. So 60% of shopping queries on Google are those upper funnel searches that I mentioned earlier, which means broader and longer keywords. So this tells us that we need to focus on narrowing down the keywords to make sure that we target those higher intent keywords and we're not bringing in the traffic that is more for these upper funnel searches that might be checking out some competitors, doing a little research. They're not ready yet. In the last few years, there has been a 200% growth in the search term where to buy and near me. So just a little quick example from a client. I had a client that last month had a total of 84 search terms. So their ad showed up 84 times and was clicked on 84 times. 56 of those search terms had the term near me in it. So near me is one of those keywords that is just skyrocketing, and I have seen that across all my campaigns right now. So if you're running campaigns, make sure you're targeting the keyword, whatever your business is, near me, if it's a physical location, because that's just something that you need to be bidding on right now. And lastly, there has been 125% growth in mobile searches containing best and right now. This is due to us humans just being even more impatient than ever, and we want the best thing that we can possibly have right now. And then on top of that, to make even things even more complex, 15% of searches have never been searched before. This is because this is the online population using search on mobile and in-home devices. So searches are now being posed as questions to devices such as your Alexa, your Google Home, or Siri. And people are actually using full sentences to ask questions instead of just searching one or two search terms. So this is now what we realize it's more important, more than ever now, that we start utilizing these long tail keywords to match what people are saying to their Google and other speaking devices. I see, was that a chat that came in or a question? Okay, I can relate to that. Yep, definitely. We all want the best thing near me right now. So next we'll go into budgeting. So this is going to be a little calculator that if you actually go to my Instagram page, you can download it. It's in my link in my bio. But what this is you'll actually get thrown into an Excel spreadsheet. So what I love about this is that all these numbers change. So you're going to go ahead and put in your spend. So let's say it's $500. Let's say it's $5,000. You put that in. You put in your average customer value, your conversion rate, your close rate, and your average cost per click. And of course, I do have an example for e-commerce, and so that's also in the spreadsheet as well. But this is one of the most simple ones to go over, is just service-based industry. So we'll use this as an example. And then this information is actually pulled directly from my own personal advertising. So I was mentioning earlier that I will actually start Facebook advertising, and this for my coaching business. And this is going to, oh, sorry, did someone have a question?
Did you know that they are redoing?
Okay. So this is going to be actual numbers that I pulled, and we're talking about Google Ads today, but the great thing about this is that it can be used for any paid advertising. So I'm using this for Facebook, and I can actually plug in all the numbers that I have, and it'll put all of this information out for me. So it'll give me how many clicks, how many leads, my cost per acquisition, which is cost per customer or cost per lead, how many customers I would get from that because it uses the close rate, how much my cost per customer is, revenue, return on ad spend, gross profit, all that good stuff. So what I really like this calculator is that it'll give me a step-by-step steps of how much money I could possibly make from Google Ads, Facebook ads, whatever it is. So like I said, link in my bio. I love this calculator. I use it with all my clients and making sure that Google Ads will be profitable for them before they even start. So next is, again, I'm going to just keep reiterating this because it's so important. Just remember that Google is where your audience is. As Kate was saying, earlier, Google has become so common that the expression is actually recognized as a verb by the Oxford English Dictionary. I know people that actually say, oh, I'm just going to go Google up something and go to Bing. It's that thing where Google is just the term that we use when we want to actually search something. So as you can see from this graph, Google retains over 85% of the market share. So they do this through Google, Google Images, Google Maps, and YouTube. And so as I mentioned earlier, with these billions of searches that happen every single day, every minute, there's actually over 2 trillion Google searches every year, which is just something I can't possibly even fathom. That's a lot of searches. And someone actually did the hard work for us, and this calculated down to 63 million searches every single second. But that's not surprising to see when you can see that Google just owns and just dominates all of the impression share. We have some other ones where Bing is sitting right at 6.8%, and then all the other ones combined are sitting at 7%, but that's just nothing compared to how much Google actually retains of the market share. So now that we know why we should be on Google, we're going to dive into some of the basics. So here's a list of all the different types of campaigns that you could possibly use on Google. When I talk about keywords, we are going to be focusing on search campaigns. Those are the most common and the basic ones that you want to use when starting out with Google, because it's the easiest way to drive traffic to your site based on the keywords. So search campaigns, you're going to put in keywords into Google, and Google will match those keywords with people on the internet, and it will show your ad to them. These are going to be text ads, so there's going to be no images, no videos. It's going to be very simple, and that's why I love starting with these. Display advertising is going to be encompassing a lot of other things on this list. So display advertising is the same as video, which is also the same as discovery, which is also shopping as well. I don't know why Google does this. I think they tried to make this to make it a little bit more simple for the advertiser to say, well, I don't know what display is, but I know I want a video. Let's go ahead and do video on YouTube. But what's really important here is that these are all of the same advertising. App, that's pretty simple, but basically if you have an app, you will actually show up on the Google Play Network. Local campaigns are going to be Google Maps. So if you have a physical location, if you've been searching recently, Google has been doing some updates, and you might be searching for something and you might see a purple little circle that says ad. So that means it's an ad. So you're actually putting your physical location on Google Maps. So when someone's searching on Google Maps, your ad will actually show up. The last one I want to discuss, and I did not miss, but this is smart campaigns. So smart campaigns are my nemesis. I like them for shopping ads because it does the hard work for you. Since display advertising is shopping, smart campaigns are okay with shopping. However, with search campaigns, they are a nightmare, because what smart does is they combine search and display advertising together. And so the issue is when search and display are combined together, it means that all of your numbers, all of those KPIs, all of those metrics that I mentioned earlier are completely messed up. So as I said, for search, the average cost per click is $2.68. For display, it's 63 cents. I'm terrible at math, so I can't do that math off the top of my head, but the average cost per click would then show you that it's around $1, which doesn't make sense because that's nowhere near the search and that's nowhere near the display. So that's just one of the main reasons why I don't like display and search campaigns together, and why I never, ever, ever recommend it is because you're meshing all those metrics together that shouldn't normally go together. The other thing with smart campaigns is you don't have that control of targeting keywords, targeting audiences, and targeting demographics. What Google does for you is you set up a smart campaign and Google makes all those adjustments for you. And so what I tell all of my clients is manual is the best at the beginning, because you know who your ideal audience is, you know what keywords to target. Google doesn't. And so you can at least get ahead of that automation by setting it up yourself, versus with smart campaigns, you don't have that option. It does all the learning for you, and eventually it will learn, but eventually it might be 2 months, eventually it might be 8 months. You know, it kind of takes time to learn, versus you actually know who your audience is, who your demographics are, all of that good stuff. So I do want to reiterate, this is not your fault if you're running smart campaigns. It's absolutely what Google pushes you to do. And again, it's not necessarily a bad thing. You might be having a great return on ad spend with your smart campaigns, but just know that it can be better if it was on the manual search campaigns. So I don't like them personally because I'm very controlling and I love to control everything that I do, and search campaign or smart campaigns just give away too much authority to Google. So me personally, I don't use them. Like I said, they're good with shopping, but with search, it's definitely something that you want to take a look at. And if it's running well, maybe focus on seeing if you can branch them out and do some regular search campaigns. Or if they're not doing well, maybe just go ahead and shut them off and then again, dive into this regular search campaigns. So like I said, it's important to know, not your fault. It's just the thing that Google automatically pushes right now because it is just the easiest thing for business owners to start when they're first diving into Google. All right, so next I just want to show you the two main types of ads. So as you saw earlier, we have search, which is going to be over here. So like I said, the text ads, you're just going to see some headlines and description, and then a link to actually go to the website itself. What over here you see is the shopping campaigns. So the shopping campaigns are a little bit different. It's for e-commerce only, but you can actually see an image. So shopping is great because one, it is display advertising. You're going to see a lot more variability. You're going to see a lot. If we were to go ahead and click on this, we would see hundreds of shoes. So you have a lot of options to search from, and that's why it's considered display advertising. But what the most important thing to note here is that we have the search on this side, and then we have organic way down here. So as you can see, there's no ad right here. There's ad here, but there's none here. So for search advertising, you're above the organic. So what the difference between organic advertising is that it can take you a long time to get up here. Finish Line has been in business for a long time. So they probably spend a lot of money on SEO to be able to be number one for the search term. However, for Google Ads, you can be above them. You can be number one. You could be number two on that same day that you set up your ads. However, for SEO, I'm not an expert, but I have heard it can take months, sometimes 6 months, sometimes to even a year to slowly see that progress of bumping up the search engine page versus at Google Ads. Will put you number one right at the top, assuming you do a good job of setting everything up properly. So how do you even show up for these keywords? Now we're going to go ahead and figure out how to use keywords effectively. So as I mentioned earlier, the more specific to your business, the better. The higher intent, the better you're going to have performance for your keywords. And these are actually, and I think I mentioned this earlier, the number one spot where mistakes happen in the Google accounts when I come in and look at them. Google Ads is the best tool for lead generation, but it all comes down to targeting keywords in your search campaigns to make sure that you're targeting the right people in the right level of the marketing funnel. Like I said, we want to make sure that we're targeting people who are closer to the conversions, to the bottom of the marketing funnel versus the upper marketing funnel where people maybe are just doing some competitor research, looking and seeing some options that they might have. But if you can set up your keywords properly, you can target you can funnel extremely targeted audiences to your website. So how do you even use these keywords? I'm sure this is the question you've all been wondering. Well, I'll give you an example again, but let's say you're a photographer and you want to start with Google Ads and your keyword research. Well, where do you begin? For example, you don't want to bid on broad keywords like photographer near me, unless you're literally willing to do any type of photography. You want to make sure that you niche down and you bid on specific keywords like wedding photographer near me or product photographer near me. On the other hand, you don't want to get too niche where you're bidding on keywords that no one's actually going to show up for. So you don't want to search for best female food photographer in Denver, Colorado. We want to make sure we get that happy medium of keywords that are specific to your business, but they're not too broad or too niche where people are just simply not going to search for them. So you want to bid on the happy medium, like I said, wedding photographer near me or best pet photographer in Denver. Now going into keywords, there's a couple different types. So there is going to be informational, navigational, and transactional. Looking at this, you can probably already tell which the sweet spot is, where we want to be, but we'll go over them all. Informational is going to be the queries that cover a broad topic. So they just want an answer to something. These are the ones that they're either asking questions to Google, like how does Google Ads work? Navigational is going to be where people are looking for a particular website or web page. So navigational might be a Catie marketing Google Ads. That's my business and people are looking for my business. Transactional is going to be the intent where they want to complete a transaction. So whether it's looking for a service, looking for a product, but these are the ones where people are going to be searching for Google Ads expert or Google Ads expert in Denver. Whatever it is, these are the ones we want to focus on because these are the ones that we know that people are going to convert. So when we get into the transactional searches, we have one more layer of keywords we want to look at, which is low intent, medium intent, and high intent. You've heard this word a million times. High intent is where we want to be. So that's the ones where there is a specific action behind the search that they are doing. Medium and lower intent are going to be more of the informational and navigational searches where, again, might be looking for some competitors, might be wanting to just browse and see some other information, but not necessarily ready to convert. When you get down into high intent keywords, this is where you know that they are going to convert. Lastly, for keyword research, we are going to talk about the lovely match types. So if you are running Google Ads, this might be where you feel a little overwhelmed. This is definitely something that I was very confused of. And when I first started Google Ads, I put in, I didn't use match types. I just put in the keyword as is. However, now, 5 years later, I realize that that is a huge issue. And you actually never want to put the keyword into Google as is. I'll do one more example because I love examples from my clients. And I work with a lot of photographers, so they're all photography examples. But I worked with a local Denver pet photographer. And what he was doing was putting in pet photographer near me or hiking photographer. He was doing a lot of keywords that he thought matched his business. However, when I went in and looked at the search term report, which gives you an example of different types of keywords your ads are showing up for, he was actually showing up for keywords that were puppies for sale in Denver. That's because broad match type just takes one or two keywords that you put in and just goes crazy with it. So this is one of the automations that I really, really hate because they don't tell you, they say that, oh, it could match to some synonyms, but it's like, okay, well, what are those synonyms? For my friend's business, he was bidding on the keyword dog pet photography, and he was showing up for puppies for sale. So that's definitely a very a big jump, but unfortunately, that's what broad match does. So that's why I always say never put your keywords into Google as is. You want to make sure you always use these little quotation mark, brackets, and then of course negative for negative keywords. On the next slide, and this might clear up a little bit more information on how to actually use them, but we have a few different ways and then examples of the keywords and how to use them. I have seen people who mix the quotation mark and the exact match together, and you actually don't want to do that ever. You want to make sure they are separate. So each keyword has its own match type. So starting at the top, like I said, this is Google's default. This is if you put the keyword in as is. So there's nothing around it. There's no match types. And like I said, if we want to put in marketing services, a potential search term that it could trigger is advertising slogan for service businesses. As you can see, it's not relevant. Google is just picking and saying, okay, marketing services, that's kind of like advertising slogan for service businesses. And so they will show your ad for this search term when someone searches for it. When you get into phrase match and exact match, that's where you get a little bit more granular. So phrase match is going to be more broad. and it's going to have close variants and search terms, but you're not getting those synonyms, and the synonyms is where the biggest issue is. But if we went ahead and put in marketing services with these quotation marks, we could show up for services for marketing a pet store. This is because phrase match doesn't take into consideration the actual phrase itself anymore. If you're currently running Google Ads or follow me on Instagram, you'll say I had a little rant about a month ago because Google changed all of this around. So it's really important that phrase match, if you're currently using it, you might need to start using exact match, because what they did is they broadened this keyword. So before, with phrase match, the phrase mattered. And so if I typed in marketing services, I would have to have marketing services, the keywords together, and there could be nothing in the middle. They couldn't be swapped. It was very specific. Now phrase match is pretty much is much broader than it was before. So keywords could be swapped. There could be keywords in the middle of here. You're just going to pick up for keywords that are relevant to the ones that you put into Google. So that being said, the next one and the last one is exact match. When you put your keywords into Google with exact match, it's pretty simple, but it's going to match the exact keyword that you put in. So if you put in marketing services, the only search term you'll show up for is marketing services. Of course, it works with misspellings, capitalizations, and plurals, which is really important because before my time, luckily, I know that you had to actually go in and put in misspellings, capitalizations, and plurals into Google if you were using phrase match. So we love that they worked with us and that they are actually considering all of that now, so it takes out some of the work. So again, I just want to reiterate one more time, this is really important if you're currently running Google Ads and you used phrase match before, in the last few months, it has changed, and maybe you want to go back and see how much wasted ad spend that you might be having. Maybe not wasted ad spend, but how much more ad spend you're using, because you're going to be showing up for more keywords that you weren't showing up for 2 months ago. So that's another little tip I want to give to everyone today. If you're running a campaign, just make sure you look at your match types. The very last one is pretty self-explanatory. This is on the opposite end. So instead of telling Google what you want your ads to show up for, you tell Google what you don't want your ads to show up for. So if you don't offer free services, if you don't offer cheap services, inexpensive, or if your e-commerce and Amazon is too cheap and you don't want to show up for them, you put in these negative keywords, and then your ads will not show up for free marketing services. So this is a good way that if you have an idea of what you don't want your ads to show up for, you put in negative search terms. So I want to pause here. I didn't see any comments come up in the chat, but are there any questions that I could answer for you all before we do jump into a little activity? And if you want, you can also just chop off mute. You don't have to put in the chat.
I will just say, again, I love the specificity of all of this. Like there have been a number of moments I'm like, whoa, mind blown. So this is awesome, Catie. Thank you.
Absolutely, of course. Okay, I don't see any questions coming in. So what we are going to do is jump into a breakout room. So right now, we are going to go ahead and put you in groups of, I think, about 2 people. And what I want you to do is just chat with each other. Brainstorm and research some keywords that you think your audience would type into Google. And I actually want you to pull up Google if you're on your phone or your desktop and actually type in your keywords that you think people would be searching for. And just take a look at it and see what type of ads come up. Remember, we want to look at those text ads and those shopping ads to see if your competitors show up, to see who is bidding on those keywords currently. So I think we're going to have that broken out, and then we do have about 10 minutes left. So I think we'll do this for about maybe 5 to 7 minutes, and we'll get a general idea of how everyone's going, and then we'll bring you back in. I'll leave with some best practices, and then again, you can ask me all the questions you need.
Welcome, welcome. Oh my gosh, I hope everyone had some really productive combos and brainstorming sessions too. Did anybody have any, aha moments or keyword searches that they're super excited about?
Go ahead.
I was going to say I was with a couple people from St. Louis and Denver, but they have like a little side gig going. So I thought, and they can speak too, but I thought it was interesting that they're not using this necessarily for their mainstream business, but for the side gigs that they're developing, or Lauren's husband is working on something too. So we definitely were able to come up with a couple keywords that stood out and maybe we didn't think of at first.
So cool.
This is Michelle. I'm sorry, I can't see you guys. I had to hop on the car. Can you hear me? Because I'd like to make a comment.
Yeah.
So I think this is wonderful and amazing, and you're spot on. I said in my breakout session, I hope that you have a chance to talk about how this is part of your whole lead funnel strategy, because I'm sure, as you know, that conversion side, which is what everybody cares about, there's a lot to be said around like, and then when you drive people to the landing page, what's happening with your website? People probably don't understand the need for like that mobile experience or page load and et cetera, et cetera. So I would highly encourage everybody, like if you're thinking about doing this, I would definitely meet with an expert. So you like Kate, so you really can do it right, because you can waste money pretty easily if you try to go at it by yourself. So get some great training or hire somebody to help you, but that would be my recommendation.
So true. Cool. Yeah. And I know, Katie, you said you had some best practices too that you were excited to close out with too.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll pop over there. The next slide. So again, these are just some actionable items that if you currently are running Google Ads, or want to go ahead and get started, just definitely follow these rules. The best ones that you do want to do is have about 2 to 3 ads per ad group. This is so that you can give yourself some wiggle room in testing, which you can find out which ads resonate with your audience or not. You'll be surprised. I definitely have similar ads sometimes where one converts really high and one performs terribly. And so you want to make sure that you understand what you like might not be necessarily what your audience likes and what your customer likes. Next is don't overwhelm yourself. I typically like to have around 5 to 15 keywords per ad group, and that's just to make sure that I can focus really on the keywords that I know are converting. Sometimes I come into accounts and I see accounts with hundreds of keywords, 500. Sometimes I've come into them like, this is just too much to manage on your own. You want to make sure that you have little chunks of what you can work at the beginning, and then eventually broaden it up as you figure out what's working. But definitely start small is the best way to start, and then broaden it as you figure out what different types of keywords your audience is looking for. Next, and we didn't go over this too much, so if you're running Google Ads campaigns, you know what extensions are, but at least have 3 extensions. This is a best practice just to make sure that your ads show up. So in comparison with competitors, if there's a competitor out there that has 3 extensions and you only have 1, the other competitor is actually going to show up higher above your ad. And so if you're running them, make sure, just go back and check that you have 3 extensions, and it could be any 3 of them, but make sure you have at least 3. Lastly, these might seem pretty self-explanatory, but they're pretty important because your ads can actually get shut off if you do these improperly. So don't use exaggerated punctuation. Don't use lots of periods and exclamation marks. Don't use all caps. Of course, please don't ever use any type of curse words in Google. And actually, surprisingly, this one a lot of people tend to do, but don't use the word click. Google actually penalizes you and doesn't show you ads as often if you have the word click, like click here or whatever it is. You actually want to stay away from that call to action. And you want to focus on other call to actions like schedule an appointment today or check out our collection. Lastly, don't use trademarked keywords because these will automatically get disapproved. So create keywords like iPhone, or I've been working with Rise and Cool Sculpting, keywords like that. You want to make sure you have approval beforehand, or else they will get disapproved. So we have about a minute so left, but are there any questions that I can answer for anyone today that either came up during this entire presentation or keywords?
I do have kind of one specific question. I was going to change some of the media, like a picture on one of our display ads, and it was like, this is a high performing photo, are you sure you want to remove this? But like, to me, it doesn't really resonate with me compared to some of the other stuff. So should I just ignore that and move on, or just leave it in there and add some more media? Or like, do you have any idea around that?
Definitely. So it sounds like you're running a responsive display ad. Okay, yeah. So for those type of ads, that does get into more of the automation. So Google is doing the testing for you. What's hard with those automations is exactly like you said, Google says this is a high performing one, and that's it. Well, it's like, okay, well, what does high performing mean? Is that average or is it above average? And so that's the one little trap that you can get stuck in with sometimes with the automation, is that it just gives you a general idea. I would actually suggest to take that, whether it's a photo, and actually just create a standard ad. So if it's a display ad, just create a standard display ad, and then that way you have full control over it, and you can actually start to see the metrics just for that ad and not for all the other stuff that it's in with.
Thank you. That's awesome, because the other piece that you said where they automated it with a smart campaign, you just lose a little bit of control. So I appreciate that. And then only other thing I would mention, if people are getting started, Google will reach out to you with like an analytics person or somebody to maybe help you. It may be worth it if you're just getting started, but you gave way more information than any of the sessions I've had. So thank you so much for the super detail. It's been great.
And I want to actually point out one thing real quickly. Those specialists actually will push you towards smart campaigns, automation, and all of that stuff. So take it with a grain of salt. Don't just take all the information that they give you and just run with it. Definitely do some of your own research and make sure it's going to work with your business before trusting what they say.
So true. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I saw Sarah had come off mute. Do you have time for one quick question, Catie?
I do. Yeah, we can do one more.
Here, go for it.
Sure. I'm total novice here, Catie, but going to be venturing into this territory soon. But I'm just curious, like, do people put their competitors in keywords? Because you often see that, right? Along when you Google something, you're like, oh, it's how funny they showed up too, right?
Absolutely. Great question. So I either have 50-50 with competitor targeting. It's either going to work 50% of the time, or it's not going to work at all. So I always start my campaigns with focusing on keywords. And then maybe by month 2 or 3, then we can test out some competitor keywords. However, that is a completely separate campaign. It has nothing to do with the lead generation campaign and generic keywords. So it's going to be separate because the metrics will be separate, because people looking for your competitors are either looking to maybe go to their website, or they're in that comparison mode. So you could get 50-50 of them. Either people are already signed up and they're ready to go and they want to purchase, or they are in comparison mode where you can steal them over. But you want to make sure that if you do that, I think it was Michelle, whoever said it earlier, that you want to make sure that your landing page and everything is set up and ready to go, because if you want to steal that competition, it's going to be a lot harder than people who are just generally searching.
Super. Thank you. Great presentation.
Of course.
Catie, this was such a powerful, info-packed, invaluable session. Thank you so much for this. As I mentioned, everyone, this is being recorded. We'll have it up tonight or tomorrow morning. So if you missed something, you want to hear something that Catie shared again, you can rewatch this 100 times. And I know Catie would love to connect if you have any questions, reach out on Rise Digital with any questions, follow up, or to work with her. Oh yeah, there she goes. She's got all of her.
Yep, and this will be in the link that everyone will get for the PDF as well. But I'll always email me, reach me, Instagram me, whatever.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Catie, and we'll look forward to seeing